I'm going to take you step by step through the potato sack pose. Now we're going to use our fake baby again so I can show you exactly how I wrap the baby, putting the hands and legs in place, and to make the baby really nice and supported so that they're secure, they're stable, and they're also comfortable, which is really important. I use these long stretchy wraps because it gives me a lot of room to work with in terms of wrapping them to create that support. I'm going to use 2 of those, and then I'm going to use another wrap on the outside, which is more of my sort of styling wrap. It does also add that extra support, but that's the color that I'm going for, so we leave that one till last. So when I start with this wrapping technique, I use one end, and I'm going to come up underneath the baby's shoulders first. So when I am doing this setup, it's a great way to sort of settle babies that are a little bit more awake. It's a great way to make babies a little bit calmer if they've got a strong startle, or if they're just really fighting that sleep after a feed. I also find that if they are really awake and kind of a little grizzly after a feed, wrapping them like this and going into that potato sack pose means that they're upright. So if they've got any discomfort or wind, it's going to make them feel more comfortable in that position. Okay, so starting at one end here, I always leave the nappy on when I'm doing this because you're not going to see it underneath the wrap, and if they have any little mistakes, that's not going to come through all of the wraps as well. Plus, it's going to be nice and comfortable for them too. So crossing their legs over, I do this on my lap. Even though I've got long legs, not everybody does, I do this on my lap because I can lean forward and use my belly to keep those legs in position. But what I say to people who don't have long legs is, if you sit on the floor, grab some towels, pop them up under your knees, you can create a nice long space there for them to be able to rest in while you wrap them. Okay, so the goal is to have the hands up in this wrap, so both hands are crossed over underneath the chin like that. Now what I want to be careful of is that when I am wrapping the baby and I'm coming around the shoulders and around that chest line with the elbows coming in on that chest, if you wrap the baby too tight, you are going to restrict airflow. You are going to slow down their breathing, which is dangerous. So you've got to make sure that even though the wrap is firm, you can still put a couple of fingers down there and move it around, and that the baby can kind of have a little bit of a wriggle if they need to. And that's why we use multiple layers to create that thickness so it is nice and supportive. I say, okay, so hands up, bringing that wrap across the arm there like that, and holding it in place. Swapping over with hands, bringing the other hand up underneath that chin. Now I'm not too concerned at the moment that the hands are facing in, because we can turn those wrists when the baby's wrapped nicely to turn outwards. So with the legs, what I like to do is bring that bottom up and have those legs sitting up higher than its bottom, so that when the baby is upright, all of the weight is coming down onto its bottom, not under its legs. So it's really important that those legs are nice and high there and in a comfortable seated position. So I'm going to bring that wrap down around the bottom of the baby there like that, and then just tuck it up in here to keep that side in place. Now we can start with the other side. If you've got a baby that's really kind of squirming and awake when you're trying to do this, I like to start with the arms first and then work on the legs, but it depends on the baby and what they're comfortable with. But this bottom layer is really important in terms of getting those hands and feet exactly where you want them. So making sure those hands are nice and high there. And coming across the baby. And with those legs, making sure they're up high, bringing that stretchy fabric down and around the bottom and pulling that tight. Now what I'm going to start to do is, as I come across the baby, I'm going to crisscross it across the tummy. So I'm going to come across here, down around the bottom, and then back up that way, and that's going to create extra support. So giving that a nice tug and coming around the bottom of the baby. Be careful of the little toes underneath there. Okay. Coming across now. And up around those shoulders and those arms. So what I'm careful of when I am wrapping the baby like this is that I don't come up too high around the back of the baby and around that neck, because if you create too much bulk there, you're going to make the baby's shoulders and neck look a lot larger than what they actually are. Okay, and then around the back of those shoulders, and then coming across that chest again. So we want to make sure those hands stay up nice and high. It's very different wrapping a fake baby than a real baby. This is a great way though to practice your different wrapping techniques on the direction that you bring the wrap and where you start and where you place it. Okay, when I get towards the end there, what I like to do is just wrap that around that midsection to start and close the gap between the elbows and the knees. Okay, with our next wrap, I'm going to start on more of an angle now that we've got our baby in position. I always find that by the time I finish with that first wrap, they become so much more settled because they're so used to being in a confined, secure space after being inside the womb, and having those hands up is very natural for them. When you try and have their hands down like that and straight, that's not normal or natural, so they're always trying to bring their little arms up and have those elbows bent. So I always find that when I wrap them like this, it doesn't take long for them to really kind of settle into this position. So bring that across the shoulder like that, around the back. And then that spare bit just in that midsection. So around the bottom. And then crisscrossing up again. Almost like a bandage wrap. And there's a bit of a time-consuming setup. So if the parents wanted this particular setup, then I would tend to do it towards the end of the session if the baby's nice and sleepy. But if the baby's awake and a little unsettled, this would be my go-to at the beginning of the session, because I always find that it creates a nice sort of supported, comfortable space for the baby to go off into that sleep. Okay. And then through that midsection. Now we've got our final layer. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I always like to gather the material a little bit though to create just a bit of a feature, so it's not so smooth. So coming around the shoulder there, I want to come up in nice and close to the neck there to cover that fabric underneath. Give it a bit of a pull like that. Now this fabric is a lot stretchier than the ones that are underneath, so you can make it nice and firm, but just be careful that it is not too tight. So you can see there that it's quite easy for me to put my fingers down in underneath and give that a bit of a pull. Across the chest. Gather that up. And now I've done the top, I can start to pay more attention to the bottom half and create some more thickness around here. So coming down a little bit lower around those shoulders. Crossing over again. space there like that. So down here, you can just tuck it in underneath one of these layers at the back, and it should just stay in place. So we've got our baby nice and wrapped firmly. I'm not too concerned about the bottom of the baby because it's going to be sitting upright there on there. If we did want to get some other photos, we could pull that base down to cover that under area, but it's fine at the moment. So with the hands now, what I like to do is just grab those wrists and give them a little bit of a gentle turn so that they start to face out towards me. And again, give them a little turn, obviously being very careful with their little fingers. And you want them to sit like that underneath the chin to create that support. So if the hands weren't in that position, the head would just fall forward. So they act as a great support underneath the baby's chin to keep the head upright, which is what we want. I'll just finish it off with a little bit of a hat. Okay, and we're ready to position our baby on the posing bag. So to get the bag set up, ready for the baby, I want to make sure that I've created a nice support here underneath the blankets. I like to use my Flacati rugs because they're nice and thick, and whatever support I put underneath, it's going to be hard for you to see those. So I'll pull that back and you can see my well. It's nice and deep there. And I'm just going to use some of these cloth nappies. I roll them over like this, and I can create that support now that's going to go around the base of the baby. Roll that around a bit more. Okay, so our baby's bottom was going to be able to go down inside there. We bring that back over. What I like to do is just push the Flacati down in between those two towels. And then once the baby's in there and they're supported securely by an assistant, two towels. And then once the baby's in there and they're supported securely by an assistant or by a parent, you can start to position those cloth diapers, nappies, a little more around the base of the baby. So when I'm positioning the baby in the middle of the posing bag like this, it's really important that the baby is supported at all times. Even though they're wrapped, you can see how secure our fake baby is wrapped in here. The body's not going to go anywhere. But if I let go of the head, and this baby's head simulates what a real baby's head could do, if I hold the baby still, the head's going to be still. But you know that any point in time that baby's head could move. And if the baby's head went backwards and went back quite quickly, it could hurt all the little muscles and ligaments in its neck. And it's also going to startle itself quite badly, but it will hurt the baby. Also, for me, the most important aspect is, how am I making my parents feel? If I was to place their baby down on the posing bag and I just let the baby sit there unattended, you know, if I turned and asked my parents how that would make them feel, which I've done in the past, it would make them feel very insecure. They get worried about their baby. They don't want anyone else, you know, to mishandle their baby. When they come for their newborn sessions, it's the first time that they're seeing a complete stranger handle their baby, so it can be very worrying for a new parent. So when I position the baby on the posing bag, I've always got hands on the baby so that if it does move, it's going to be supported at all times. And I'd rather spend a few extra minutes in Photoshop removing the supporting arm than risking the safety of the baby or risking the fact that my clients could feel very uncomfortable, because they always remember how you make them feel, not what you say. And I don't want them to walk away from here and have them think that I wasn't being safe with their baby, or I didn't take it seriously, or I was more concerned about getting the shot. That to me is not the most important aspect of my photography sessions. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how I get the parents to support the baby. I'm going to bring them in from the side, on the opposite side to the lighting, and I'm going to sit them down comfortably on my stool. This is a great one for the dads. Because it's you know, they love being a part of it. They love being involved. Mums, if they haven't had a cesarean, obviously they're great as well to come in and support their baby. But I usually like getting the dads in here too. So I'll have them sit comfortably on the side and I'll show them exactly where to place their hand. So let's go ahead and do that. So sitting off to the side like this is where I'll have the parents sit nice and comfortably. They can either sit like this or, you know, come around so they're a little bit more secure with their knees and their arms, so they can lean forward. It's really important that they're comfortable throughout this whole process. When I position the baby posing bag in the middle of those cloth nappies, I'll put my hands on the baby first while I'm getting all of the support in position. So basically what I want to do is pull all those cloth nappies around the base of the baby so that got that extra support there and they're nice and secure. So I'm basically just tucking it in really tight around them, and then I give the fur a bit fluff up to get rid of some of those little holes in there and make it a little bit more fuller. Okay, so when I position the parent hand at the back of the baby, it's really important that you have the finger and the thumb at the base of the baby's head here at their neck. I have their hand come across their shoulders wherever it's comfortable, and the thumb and that finger are what are supporting the baby's head. So I position their hand and then I get the baby into place and I get them to hold the other hand on the front of the baby like that. So that way, if the baby does decide to move or lurch forward, there's a supportive hand there, and then there's one at the back of the baby as well. Then I get myself into position. I take my exposure shot while I've got both hands supporting the baby at all times. And on the count of 3, when I'm ready to take my shot, I say 1, 2, 3. They bring this hand away, I take the shot, and then they bring it straight back. So the baby's got both hands on it the majority of the time, and the baby's not put at any risk whatsoever. You can see with the head just resting there on that thumb and forefinger, and the fabric at the back here is nice and easy to hold on to. At the front, it's quite hard to see that hand, so all you can see is this arm, and that's easy to remove in Photoshop. So now when I'm looking for that camera angle, I'm going to position myself in front of the baby, and I'm looking for that light coming across the face. We're on a 45-degree angle towards our light, so when I shoot from here, I'm going to be looking for short lighting, which means I'm going to be coming in on the side of the face that's got less light, more shadows, and then on the side of the face that's towards the light, it's going to have less light, and that's exactly what I'm looking for, and it's going to have that beautiful fall off to the other side of the face. So if I move around to the front here, I'm going to keep my hand on the baby. my camera angle is going to be from somewhere about here. So I'm basically going to, if you look at the line from the end of my lens to the top of the baby's nose, when I look through there, I can see all of the baby's face, and I'm coming down that nose, and it's really beautiful and flattering. I'm not seeing, you know, any dark holes or shadows or things like that. Plus, when I shoot down on an angle like this, I'm minimizing the size of the baby's body. The baby's face is the closest to the camera, so it's all about their face. It's all about that position as well. And that's pretty much it.